My name's Travis Bull Johnson. I'm running for Congress against Michelle Fischbach.
There's no money in ending war. There's no money in limiting government. To me, part of what makes America great are our small businesses, our small farms, and that's what's getting squeezed out by the establishment politicians.
That's why I say, raise cattle and not taxes. And my name's Travis Bull Johnson.
Hey, good morning, everybody. This is Bull. Welcome to episode 26 of Independent is Power. It's hard to believe we're already in the mid-20s for our episode count, and you know what? We're only getting started on this. I'm real happy to announce that next week we're gonna have Spike Cohen as my guest. Spike, for those of you who do not know, is a former vice presidential candidate for the Libertarian Party. He was under Joe Jorgensen for our last election. Spike's a great guy. He came down here and he helped me for over a weekend for my campaign for Congress. So I'm thrilled to be able to have him on, and we're going to kind of freewheel it when he comes on. We don't have a set topic to discuss. We're just going to come on and talk a little bit and then kind of see where it goes. So I'm pretty excited about that. Numerous things to talk about this week. There's a lot of things going on in our state legislature that we need to be aware of. Numerous laws that is going to have effect on a lot of our lives. I mean, a couple examples right now is there's a law up there to legalize and decriminalize marijuana, which I think is a great idea. I mean, I think it's something we really need to pursue. Problem is the way these laws are being written. It's going to be great for the personal use aspect of it. I mean, it has fairly generous amounts that you're allowed to have. It allows you to grow it for yourself. Where the devil's in the details is for the retail stores, the people who are going to be selling it. There's a lot of things within this law that's going to really make it hard for a small business to operate. And we're going to get into the same situation where we are for so many other issues, is that the only people who's going to be able to afford to do it are the bigger companies to begin with. And we've seen that happen in other states. I mean, some of the issues with this too is they limp in hemp with marijuana. So even if you're a store that's just selling products with hemp or hemp derivatives, you're going to have to meet the same criteria as those who are selling marijuana, which may include, I believe it was 2 to 3 employees there at all times. Any of your products being shipped have to be shipped through a state licensed company that specializes in this, and it's basically the equivalent of a Brinks money truck. I mean, that's going to add a lot of expense to something that should not be that hard. They're going to require special entry points. We don't know yet if it's going to require a quote unquote airlock system, but it's also going to require very expensive ventilation systems. Now, this is even includes if you're just selling little tinctures in a sealed bottle. That stuff never gets into the air. They're going to require them to have the same type of ventilation system as you would if you're selling other products. So that's what's one bill going on in the state right now, and it's being addressed by, I know we really activated a bunch of people. I've got a few friends who are in the hemp industry. I got a few friends who are in the retail industry for it, who are kind of organizing and so they can get together and all right, sorry about that. Operator error. That's why some people have their own producers for this stuff, so they don't have to fool around with that. I was trying to move over where I could see if we had any comments that came in, and accidentally put myself back in the green room. So the legislation on cannabis is one of the things going on right now. There's also some pushes for some gun control bills. I'm still kind of going through these bills to see exactly what the intent is. But there are two major issues. One, it would increase the ability of red flag laws, and the second is it would change the way Minnesota does permit to carry. Right now, we're considered a shall issue state. What does that mean? That means I go in there and I put in my paperwork to get my carry permit or my permit to own, and they look over it. And as long as there's nothing I send out that says they should not give it to me, I don't have to justify why I should have it. So they will issue the permit. There's talk about the way this would be changing, where they would have more option to deny that. It's still not quite to the limit where, to the point where you'd have to say why you should be able to get it, but it's just going to make it a lot easier for them to deny the permit. And they haven't really gone into a lot of details as far as what that would pertain to. So that's in front of the legislature right now. So following up on that, on the 26th of this month, we're going to have a Minnesota Gun Owners Caucus is having a lobby day up at the Capitol. This is a day where they're asking everybody to come out and visit the lobby, visit with their legislators on the issues that are important to Minnesota gun owners. They are going to have a help desk there to help people figure out, okay, this is who your representative is. This is how you get a hold of them. And hopefully, and the myself and the Constitutional Republic Party are planning on being at that event. Again, that's the 26th of January, and we're going to meet at the Capitol Rotunda. So that's going to be from 9 to 12. Again, 26th February. So we'd really encourage everybody to come out and be there for that. I mean, there's a lot of other things going on right now at the state capitol. New session just kicked off. That's not that unusual. But we need to be aware of what's going on up there, what bills are looking at pushing forward. So we're going to be able, so we can get our representatives, our state senators engaged. And you got to put pressure on them. You got to stay on them, and you got to push on them. I kind of had some arguments with a few people this week going back on the cannabis bill, because I see the cannabis bill as a very simple issue. It is either you're for freedom, you're for individual liberties, or you're not. Okay. And that's how I see this bill. If you're against the legalization of cannabis, you have decided that you know more about what's best for my body than I do. And you're trying to take that ability for me to decide out of my hands and put it into your hands. That's how I see it. I mean, I know there's a lot of the devil's in the details, so to speak. But the truth of the matter is, this is a case of personal freedom. This is a case of personal responsibility. Okay. And I put out a challenge this week to all the GOP, the party who's supposed to be for freedom, who's supposed to be for liberty. Okay. Basically saying if you are against this bill in any form, because there are kids, keep in mind, there are people up there for the hearings last week who basically said they had this issue, and this issue. And even if all those issues were addressed, they would vote no, because they didn't believe in it. Okay. If that's you, then guess what? You don't love liberty. You're not a supporter of freedom. Okay. You are a supporter of an authoritarian government who you decide what's best for everybody instead of letting everybody decide for themselves. I mean, it is what it is. And my thoughts are, my state senator for sure, Mark Johnson, is one of those people. He feels that he knows what's better for me and my fellow Minnesotans more than we do. And it's one of the reasons why I didn't support Mark in his last election. And he's also another big spending rhino. So somewhere down the line, I'm sure Mark's going to have a little bit more competition coming his way. And I know Deb Keel, who is my state representative, has also been against it, but I haven't really looked into Deb's point of view on this at all yet, and I'm going to. because again, this is Deb's real. She's a farmer. Her family's farmers. Her family has to benefit from all these things, from a little bit legalization of hemp and more freedom for all these things. So I'm really going to have to sit down with Deb and say, okay, what's your thoughts on this and why, and see what I can do to convince her to see the light. The other big news this week is not in our state legislature, but our in the federal government, and that's the classified documents with Joe Biden. I mean, for those of you who do not know, I spent 4 years in the Army working under the Defense Intelligence Agency. So when we start talking about classified documents and safeguarding these documents, this is something that I'm speaking to with firsthand knowledge. I've dealt with it. I've done with it. I've been through the training on it. It is something that I consider myself relatively well versed in. I also know the type of information that is sometimes included in these documents, and what it means for that information to be spread out around the world, and the damage it can do. And some of it is relatively substantial. To save people's lives depending on it would not be an exaggeration in many cases. That's true, especially when we start talking our TSSCI. TSSCI is top secret, special compartmentalized information. That is basically an even higher level than top secret. And that's the clearance I held. I held basically the top security clearance in for the government that you can get. And let me go into a little bit of we're going to do a quick class here on some of this stuff. In order to be able to have access to a classified document, you need two things. One, the security clearance. Security clearance, basically, they look at your background, they determine whether you're trustworthy or not, and then you can get a security clearance up to a certain level. Maybe it's just confidential, maybe it's up to secret, maybe it's like mine, top secret SCI. But just because you have that clearance, that does not mean you get to see classified documents. You also have to have a need to know. Why do this information I need is classified. Okay, if I've got a need to know, I can see it. But if I can't just go in there and go, I'm curious, let me go look. I've got top secret clearance. Let me go see what's going on in this for documents. No, you can't do that. You have to have a specific need to know that information. Now, the top secret SCI that we talked about, that I mentioned for the highest level of clearance, these documents are normally not even allowed out of the room that they're in. They're in a very high security room with video cameras seeing who comes in and who goes out. They've got security measures out of the rear end to get in and out of this room. And those documents are never supposed to leave that room. Basically, if something's classified top secret, it basically means that if this information gets out, it's going to really have serious repercussions to the United States. So these are the type of documents that aren't even supposed to leave that room. But these are the same type of documents that were reportedly found in both President Trump and President Biden's personal residences. Yes, I know that you're the president. And keep in mind that when they are president or vice president, so in both these cases, Mar-a-Lago and Biden's even private residence in Delaware, were set up with these types of rooms that we talked about. That basically that information could be in those rooms, but couldn't leave those rooms. Okay. Both Biden had that type of room when he was vice president. Once he left, that room was decommissioned, which means it can no longer be used for that purpose. Same with President Trump in Mar-a-Lago. That once he was no longer president, that room was no longer certified to handle those type of documents. Now, it is not unusual for former leaders to hold those security clearances after they get out of office. That is usually determined by the incoming president. And with the way things have been going lately, as far as your headbutting between the parties, as far as I know, they haven't really extended that courtesy to the follow-on individual to have that access. But again, remember what I said earlier. You need to have two things. You need to have a need to know, and you need to have the clearance. So the reason they allow these guys to keep these clearances is so a former president can go to a predecessor and go and discuss a situation that may have happened under the previous predecessor's watch, and go over some new information to get their opinions on this. Again, this happens a lot more common when they're in the same party than opposite parties, but it's not unheard of. This happens a lot in the intelligence community world, where the director of the CIA may keep their security clearance so that they can contribute to issues in the future as far as using their institutional knowledge is concerned. But again, they have to have a need to know. One of my big issues with this whole system is for United States Congress. Once a congressman is elected, they're automatically assumed to have the background to be read into classified information. So basically, they automatically get security clearances without ever going through a background check that everybody else would have to go through. Now, keep in mind, these background checks are not done in a period of 1 week or 2 weeks. I believe mine took almost 1.5 years to complete. So, I mean, I kind of understand not going into that depth with a brand new House of Representative member who has only been elected for 2 years. If it takes a 1.5 years to be able to get you access to the documents you need to be able to have the information you need to make decisions on the national level, that can be an issue. But the thing is, it needs to be a lot more strict than it is. And this needs to be a situation where they can work their way up to some of these other clearances. But right now, all they have to do is win an election, and they have access to the nation's secrets for the most part. And that should never be a case. Let's go back to our presidents, our former vice president, our former president. In the case of Donald Trump, he had and I want to go up to cover one more misconception that's out there, is when you look up a lot of these security clearances and how the security clearance works, how classification authority works, this is all based on an executive order that was done. I believe the most recent one was 2004. I'll have to go back and verify. Don't quote me on the year. But when you look at this executive order, it places the president and the vice president on the same line as far as how original classification and declassification authorities are concerned. So when somebody comes back and says, well, he was the vice president, he didn't have that authority, or he wasn't authorized that, no, that's bullshit. Okay, I call bullshit. If you do just a few minutes worth of research and look up original classification authority, it will show you and tell you, yes, the vice president has the same authorities for the most part as the president. The exception being is if the president classifies a document, the vice president cannot unclassify that document because that's a level higher than he currently holds. Okay, so the people are saying, well, he was never authorized these documents in the first place. No, that's not correct. Okay, get that argument out. I mean, there's a lot of other arguments to have on here, a lot of other issues to take offense with. That should not be one of them. Okay, because that one's not legit. When it first came out that these documents were in the think tank of Joe Biden, my first indication was to give the man the benefit of the doubt. I mean, because in my mind, I could picture the last week or last couple days of the Obama administration. You have packers in your area that you're working in on a regular basis, packing up all your documents and it's possible that a classified document or two was on the desk and just got shoved into a box. Okay, I was willing to. I could see the possibility of that happening. It's wrong. It should never happen, but I can see how it would happen. Same with President Trump for a certain situation is it's the same thing. I mean, people were packing up who the document should never have been left there in the first place. But they may have been in the middle of something. It may have been in the Oval Office. It may have been in a workspace of the vice president. I can see stuff like that happening. When they found a bunch more documents and they started including things like top secret documents and it started being in like a garage, okay, at that point you lost all benefit of the doubt. Okay, I try to keep a mindset that everybody is good. So I am more than willing to give somebody a benefit of the doubt until they prove me wrong. And that's very much think that may be this is the situation here. I do think we need a full, comprehensive investigation of what went on with these documents, because the higher up the chain you go, the less they seem to believe that these regulations, these rules pertain to them. And that's the exact opposite approach that we need to have, because these guys have access to so much more information. It needs to be protected even further. My other issue with the way the Biden situation was handled is once they found documents, this is for the president of the United States. They sent his personal lawyers who have no security clearance to look for more documents. Okay, so now you're taking a wrong and you're compounding on it. As the president of the United States, you've got access to so much manpower that has the proper clearances for these documents to go search for them. And instead, you send your personal attorneys who have no security clearance, who have no access, who should have no access to those documents. That's who you send to look for them. Okay, so it violates a law just by them picking up and looking at it without that clearance. So you're breaking a law on top of breaking a law. And the fact that nobody in his circle thought about that is scary. Okay, you're already looking at a major issue here. You're already looking at a major political public relations nightmare. And then you send the least trusted members of society, lawyers for the most part. I'm sorry, James. I'm sorry, John. Two of my buddies who often watch my podcast who are lawyers. But you send your personal lawyers to go back and look through your stuff to find these documentations. I mean, that's wrong. I mean, I will give the president's lawyers the kudos for when they first found the documents. They reported them rather than doing what I think 90% of the people would have done, which is just burn them or shred them and say they were never there. They did the right thing by turning them in so that you can now look and see if this information has been compromised. But to send lawyers back in again to look for more documents, I think it was very much the wrong play. And I really do think that these regardless if you're president or not, you need to be held accountable for this. As I mentioned earlier, I had a top secret SCI clearance. I worked in the U.S. Embassy in Amman, Jordan. And if I would have taken a secret document or a top secret document out of my control area and left it downstairs in the dining area, and somebody would have came back and picked it up, I would have had my clearance at the very minimum suspended, which means I could no longer do my job. Probably I would end up losing my clearance completely. And because it was required for my job, I'd have probably been chaptered out of the military. Because for what I was doing, I needed that clearance. Those are the repercussions Joe Blow and normal people in that situation would have. Why do we take these people and put them in more important positions and then not hold them to that same level of accountability? They should be. And maybe this is part of the Democrats' master plan This is how they replaced Joe Biden with Harris before the election. So she has the opportunity of basically running for re-election twice. That's a possibility. But right now, I definitely believe they need to be held accountable. This needs to be a no-nonsense investigation. It can't be something that spreads out forever. So far, it looks like the Attorney General's office is doing the right thing. They've appointed a special counsel. They've turned it over to a Trump-appointed U.S. attorney, and they've turned it over to FBI for further investigation. The fact that they turned it over to a Trump-appointed U.S. attorney, I think, is a great thing, because again, it is showing that you're not stacking the deck in favor of your president. I mean, you're actually putting it out there for somebody who would not have a bias towards the president, and we're gonna have to wait and see how all that turns out. But I'm hitting my half an hour point, which I usually like to try to end that right now. We are going to have a longer show next week again with Spike as our guest. I expect that show to go at least an hour. Let me see what else is going on before we sign off. Oh, Constitutional Republic Party. They are kind of unofficially our sponsor right now of the show. So I would encourage everybody to go out there and learn about the Constitutional Republic Party. You're not going to be able to Google it yet because the Google crawl still has not picked up. So if you want to take a look at our website, you are going to have to type in constitutionalrepublicparty.us. We do have our memberships available option open on it now, as well as our donations. Please go out there, look at the party. If it's something that you agree with, and you're tired of the way things are going, consider donating. Consider becoming a member. We have two types of memberships. We have your regular yearly membership, and then we have a Plank membership. What the Plank membership is, it's basically going to be available for the first 100 people to join the party. As a Plank member, we have our set bylaws. We have our principles of the party. The only way the principles of the party can be changed or altered is Plank members have to approve it. Okay, they basically have a veto authority. This is something that we put in place to protect the party from a hostile takeover further on, and to protect the party from other parties trying to infiltrate it and sabotage it. So that's part of what these Plank members are, is people who have been here from the beginning, who understand what our principles are. Small government, leave us alone. Okay. So I would really encourage you to come out here, take a look at the party, visit us on Facebook, visit us on Twitter. For Twitter, it's CONSREPUS for Twitter. And again, and I will try to play with something right here. Can I do it? Hey, there we go. We have the banner going on right now on the bottom of our screen with the website. Website right now has our principles on there, has our bylaws, has a lot of different information. We are still in the process of forming our platform. Originally, we're going to try to have our first convention in the March-April timeframe. We have decided we're going to push that timeframe back to the June timeframe. Our time limit of trying to do it in March and April was kind of an artificial time limit. There was no real reason it had to happen at that time. We just wanted to get it done as soon as possible. But as we started going on, we said, you know what, this rush is not going to allow us to properly prepare to actually get a good platform in place to vote upon. And we decided to push this back into the June timeframe, because we also wanted this convention to be after a lot of the farmers have already got their crops in the field. So, because we want them to be able to attend if they want to. But that's what's going on, guys. It's been a real quiet morning. I don't have any comments. We've had, I guess, a lot of people got stuff going on today. We normally have a pretty good viewership, And today we just don't have much going on there. Maybe they just weren't interested in the topics we had to discuss. But hey, for those of you who are tuning in later, I appreciate you tuning in to us. Thank you very much. Remember, independent is power. Thank you very much. Everybody have a great day. And we'll see you again next week when we have a Spike on the show. Thank you very much. Bye-bye.